Madam, you can proceed. Carry on.
Honorable Vice President of India, Shri Venkaiah Naidu ji has arrived. I would like to welcome the chief guest of the event, Honorable Vice President Shri Venkaiah Naidu ji, for the book launch of the book titled A Textbook on Urban Planning and Geography, authored by Dr. Sameer Sharma. The book is outcome of decades of experience of Dr. Sharma. May I call upon Dr. Sharma to please give the welcome address. Thank you, sir.
Sir, namaskaram, sir. Thank you, sir. This is the second occasion that the Honorable Vice President of India has agreed to launch my book. The earlier one was when he launched the first book on urban development titled Smart Cities Unbundled. That was a face-to-face event in the Vice President's house, and all of us, particularly my family, remember the way he allowed us so graciously to organize the event in a newly constructed meeting hall located just inside the Vice President's house. Perhaps ours was one of the first events. Then I again wish to place my deep sense of gratitude to the Vice President, who gave me the opportunity to work as Missions Director in the Indian Smart Cities Mission, the Amrut, and the Capacity Building Program. That helped me to apply several ideas I had learned during my doctorate in the United States and apply them to conditions prevailing in the Indian cities. Thank you, sir. The praxis which I developed there in those nearly 4 years was the prime driver behind this book. This book, sir, describes the way a theory is in the terms of not abstract but also frameworks, ideas, practices, worked its way through the West in a situation different from the Indian. This is then sort of paired with the circumstances prevailing in India, placing the issue or challenge in the Indian context side by side with the Western notions of what causes something to happen and why, is expected to empower both students and practitioners to visualize how a theory would work in the Indian situation. So this book doesn't provide any direct answers. What it does is to allow practitioners to run questions through a theory in their minds so that they know what the theory says is likely to be the result of one course of action compared to another. As a result, visualization is enabled and learners get to know what to think and how to think in the Indian context. So as you're aware, so the contemporary Indian cities have gone through 4 stages. One is before the British rule. We can say before 1857, when the British rule was consolidated and UK took charge of India directly. And the second stage was from 1857 till our independence. The third stage is from our independence till 1991. Why 1991? Primarily because the National Commission on Urbanization was set up in the 80s, and 1991, sir, India opened up. And as you know, it let loose so much of animal spirits, including the locational constraints which were there earlier were removed. From 1991, so we have really enjoyed the benefits of globalization, which has had so much positive and also the accompanying negative effects. And that stage is still going on, sir. This book consists of 7 chapters. The first 2 chapters cover up to 1991, what happened within the city and what happened amongst the cities, what we call intra and inter-urban changes. The third chapter deals with changes beyond 1991. The fourth is on regional developments, are so important with all the mega cities, Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, Kolkata, and now increasingly Hyderabad, Bangalore, and even to a certain extent Pune. The fifth deals with urban planning, the sixth with urban governance, and the seventh with the social landscape, which is over the informal sector. So urban planning is particularly very interesting because I used a lot of theories which were there from the West, and I have basically shown so that what is now being said in West as postmodernism is actually what was there in India, and we can also call it neo-traditional development. So finally, I would like to confess that this is a dream come true for me. As an undergraduate student, I used to read some classic textbooks, such as the one on statics and dynamics written by Gorakhnath of Delaware University, and Richard Feynman's lectures on physics. At that time, I used to think, why should I not write a book like that? Or this book is not in that league, but it's a small effort to fulfilling that dream of mine. Thank you, Honorable Vice President, sir. Thank you once.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, may I call upon Shri Hitesh Vaidyaji, Director, National Institute of Urban Affairs, to kindly introduce the book to our audience. Over to you, sir.
Namaskar, sir. This is indeed a very, very proud moment for me to introduce the textbook on urban planning and geography, authored by Dr. Samir Sharma in the presence of our Honorable Vice President. Honorable Vice President, sir, in your earlier role as the Minister of Housing and Urban Affairs, sir, you have not only guided the urban transformational journey of the country, of the nation, but also nudge the cities to come up with the roadmaps to combat urban challenges by conceptualizing and rolling out 5 flagship missions. Sir. This book really highlights and provide insights into the principles which you mentored during your tenure, sir. And this book will guide the agitated, in my opinion, this book will guide the agitated minds of students by answering multiple queries on the future of urban planning in the country, same way as Lord Krishna guided Arjuna's mind to find the true essence of life. It intends to connect prevailing urban practices with planning principles here in India and aligns the Indian experiences with the Western theories. So that's one of the beauty of this book, sir. And the Honorable Prime Minister's call for Atmanirbhar India, 5 trillion economy, vocal the local, demands a paradigm shift in the way planning is to be carried out at the local level. This calls for, sir, moving away from the business as usual approach to disruptive and innovative local and contextual urban strategies and solutions. And sir, if we want this to happen, planning, education, and governance structures need to be strengthened at the local level, sir, which you have been always championing during your tenure in the ministry. And also we have learned so much, and you have always championed this cause of local government strengthen and planning principles, sir. And so the idea is to impart appropriate knowledge, technology, acceptance standards, but also align profession of planning with the increasing sensitivities now towards innovative, inclusive, and sustainable solutions for the future. I strongly believe, sir, this book will guide urban professionals to experience the outcome of the Prime Minister's vision and create a talent pool of young professionals to manage emerging reform processes and steer a new urban discourse for the country, and also on the principles which you have been championing all along, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a lucid description of the book. I would now like to request Honorable Vice President of India, Shri Venkaiah Naidu ji, to kindly release the book titled A Textbook on Urban Planning and Geography. Thank you so much, sir. Honorable Vice President, sir, may I now request you to kindly address this August gathering.
Hitesh Vaidyaji, Dr. Samir Sharma ji, Sri Ashok K. Ghosh, and all others who have joined the program virtually, and my dear sisters and brothers. I am delighted to be with you virtually for the release of the book, a textbook of urban planning and geography, written by Dr. Samir Sharma. And I would like to extend my hearty congratulations to Dr. Samir Sharma Director General and CEO of the Institute of Corporate Affairs, for the efforts he has put in this work. Dr. Samir Sharma always used to work hard and used to impress one and all by his thorough understanding of the subject and also the work that is assigned to him from time to time. He has done a commendable job, and he was the first director of the Smart City Mission. The book is very timely as we go through a shift in how we view the urban, the post-COVID era. The concept of urbanism. Friends, cities are the engines of economic growth in any modern economy. They are the centers of trade, administration, culture, entrepreneurship, academia, and many more things. Cities are also the crucible of our multicultural and diverse nation. People from all backgrounds, languages, regions come to the city for opportunities, make their own mark on the city's culture, shaping it and getting shaped by it. If one wants to experience the mosaic of Indian culture, one has to simply visit an Indian city. But cities are more than just the constituent ingredients. Each city develops a certain character that becomes unique to it. Delhi, Hyderabad, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, all have their own peculiar essence about them that cannot be found anywhere else. Of course, because of their historical and cultural background. We must preserve these unique qualities about them. That is very important. Ancient history. We have an urban history that is much older than the colonial era, something that goes back to Indus civilization. The cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro stood above the rest of the world in their advanced city planning, construction techniques, with the use of fired bricks and their public spaces like the Great Bath. This trend continued in the later millennium too. The principles of urban planning are found in texts as Manasara's Shilpa Shastra and Kautilya's Ardha Shastra, and reflected in the planned towns of the period such as Ayodhya, Indraprastha, Madurai even, Vanji, Kaveri Pattam, Kanchipuram, to name a few. We had thriving urban settlements centered around this trade, pilgrimage, or the seat of government. The trend of urbanization in India. Urbanization has been a global trend since the advent of industrialization. In our country too, there has been a steady growth since independence. But in the last 2 decades, India has been witnessing rapid urbanization. I mean, Hyderabad now, see how Hyderabad is developing fast. Nearly 40% of our population is living in cities. And the share is expected to become more than 60% by 2050. The United Nations projects that by 2050, India would add another 416 million urban dwellers to its cities. This correlates with the experience around the world as a consequence of economic growth. My dear friends, urban planning and its importance. Urbanization brings in its share of opportunities and challenges. Opportunities as well as challenges. These challenges include limited resource of land, water, and infrastructure, competing interest of diverse mix of people, an ever increasing and mobile population. But if they are utilized well, planned properly, they can create a growth engine that benefits all and creates a home for everyone. How we go about managing these factors determine the fate of a city. It is here that planning becomes a key factor in urban governance. In order to make a thriving and dynamic city, a reactive and a proactive approach must be replaced by a proactive, planned, and forward-looking approach. This calls for vision and long-term planning. Friends, I believe that these three components to good urban planning: one, accessibility; two, inclusivity; and three, sustainability. If these three requirements are balanced and fulfilled, it makes a great livable city. Accessibility. First is accessibility. Accessibility refers to the ease, choice, and uninterrupted nature of access to amenities and infrastructure facilities like transport, housing, and civic amenities like water, gas, and waste management, as well as traffic management also nowadays. To begin with, many urban centers in India struggled for sufficient supply of potable water, public transport infrastructure, affordable housing, and a functioning solid waste management. There has been a gradual improvement over the years with the successive governments, and the situation is much better now. Should improve further with schemes like Smart Cities Project, Amrut, Swachh Bharat Mission, among many other schemes. Cities across the country now compete for the top spots in various categories and are managed much more professionally than before. I had an opportunity to serve as Urban Development Minister, and these schemes of Smart City, Amrut, Swachh Bharat, and also the Housing for All were launched during my tenure, of course, under the guidance of the Honorable Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Bhai Modi. He has a vision and he wants to reform. He gave a 3-line mantra of reform, perform, and transform. That explains what is required to be done. Civic bodies going forward must adopt self-financing models that make operation of public utilities viable. Only when cities pay, cities means citizens, for the resources they use, even if it is a nominal fee, brings a sense of responsibility and ownership in the users. There is a proven best practice in India and elsewhere that without a fee, drinking water supply ran the risk of complete depletion in many urban areas. We should avoid that situation. Sustainability. This brings up the components of sustainability. City planning must also pass the test of sustainability, be in the financing of civic amenities, be it in encouraging green buildings, recycling waste, harvesting rainwater, reduce, reuse, recycle, promoting public transport, among other good practices. Urban flooding has become a perennial phenomenon now in many cities due to concretized structures. This urban flooding is becoming a perennial phenomenon. The urban heat island effect causes heat waves in cities due to densely packed structure and vehicular pollution. We are all experiencing it. In order to make our cities sustainable, we must be one with the nature. That's why I always say nature, culture together for better future. Lakes that serve as natural buffers must be reclaimed in order to avoid annual flooding. Other climate responsive measures such as planting trees, given green building code for housing are the ones to be adopted enthusiastically. In order to curb vehicular pollution, public transport must be incentivized over private transport. Green initiatives like carpooling, use of CNG, or electric vehicles must be encouraged. On the part of citizens too, there should be conscious behavioral change in the way they use road space. There should be a people's movement to promote cycling, which is not only a healthy option but also reduces pollution. My dear friends, the citizens' attitude, their behavior is very important. They should be educated, they should be guided, they should be motivated from time to time. Third is inclusivity. Finally, an integral component of planning of the livable city is that of inclusivity. A city cannot be for the few. It is of the and for the many who inhabit it and call it their own home. But unfortunately, the urban poor often get excluded in cities' scape. We must make sure that the migrant coming from a rural area must not live in substandard conditions. The domestic help living in the city's periphery must not struggle to move for transit to work. The slum dweller must not struggle for access to water, education, and health care. The street vendor must not be harassed by civic authorities. City planners must build the city to accommodate and protect the interest of homeless and poor people too, and not just those living in the gated communities. They should all be part of the planning. Urban planning must have an inclusive component. Various urban programs of the government, like the National Urban Livelihood Mission and Housing for All, have a huge boost they provide for urban poor infrastructure and have been providing economic opportunities. I appreciate the government for these initiatives and other concerted efforts be taken at the local level to alleviate poverty, because the central government can plan, can finalize the programs, can fund also. At the end of the day, the implementation rests with the state and with the civic bodies. So in the final analysis, cities must ensure that their residents live in a comfortable manner. Comfortable, I add further, in a happy environment. The government's Ease of Living Index ranks cities on this basis of livability. Improving this index should be the goal of all the citizens, cities in India. I commend all those cities that have been appearing consistent in the top 10 in these rankings. Cities as living, breathing spaces. In many cities, the breathing space is not provided adequately. In order to make cities livable in urban centers, we must ensure they are not only provide comfort to people, but also raise the happiness quotient of the people. For that, these are my suggestions. Firstly, urban planning must be done with the local aesthetic and local traditions. In our blind limitation of the West, we have made all our cities look like uniform, anonymous, and without any reference to its history. The city must speak of its history, its culture, its heritage. The idea of a city has become equated with only buildings, paved roads, and flyovers. Remember, a city that does not recognize its past cannot have a future. The Preservation of heritage in historic cities is the principle behind the Hriday scheme. More cities should be added to the program. We must ensure that every city reflects its unique traditions. Secondly, the cities must have vibrant public spaces and not secluded apartments alone. Shared civic activity is what makes a city. This used to be a feature in older cities, when people would meet and greet each other. Nowadays, there is a very little shared activity and a very little feeling of a community togetherness. A community bonding grows only if the families interact regularly, share and learn from each other's experience. We should spend money on building libraries, public parks, and museums. We should plan for the cultural exhibitions, annual auditoriums, and public recreation centers for people to mingle and exchange ideas. Thirdly, cities are often described as concrete jungles, but they are very far away from an actual jungle. In our aspiration for a modern lifestyle, we lost all connection with the nature. This is acutely felt in urban areas. Many a time we find that even sun rays do not penetrate our homes. We must be able to live with the sun, with the moon, light, air. It really improves the quality of life. Our planning, I suggest all planners should keep in mind the planners of the cities, the towns, even the architects who plan for public utilities buildings or the residences, they must keep in mind proper ventilation and air circulation must be ensured in houses, offices, restaurants, and conference halls. We have experienced this COVID pandemic. See why the rural people do not suffer much. Why there is minimum cases in the rural areas? Because of openness. Because they are able to live with the nature. In urban areas, everything is closed, including minds. We must have open spaces. We must have sun rays. Your old Vastu Shastra also. What is Vastu? Light, air, flow of water, and public convenience, all these things. But the modern trend, which has to be reversed at the earliest, is having closed environment. You travel in car, closed AC. You go to your office, closed. You go to restaurant, also closed. And then you go to any place, everything is closed. So what will happen to the health? That's why the effect of this COVID pandemic is more in urban areas. We must understand this. This is important. And also the fashion nowadays is dominating the convenience. The other day, I visited my friend's house and I was going through. As usual, I have a habit of watching everything. Then I watched the washroom also. In the washroom, there was a, what do you call, wash basin. When you on the tap, the water is falling on you, spoiling your clothes. I asked them, what is this? They said, sir, these are all modern wash basins. Modern. So I called the architect and designer and explained to her in my own local language. I told her, asked her, Saundaryama, Saukaryama. Saundaryama, Saukaryama. Is it fashion or the comfort, utility? Think about it. Passion should not be for fashion. It should be for convenience, comfort. This should become part of the architecture and decoration. We should not cover the entire city with built-up structures. We must allow the cities to breathe with more open space, parks and gardens. Playgrounds have disappeared, and very often we find children playing in crammed, crowded streets. Even the schools are all now in multi-storied buildings. There is no space to play. Physical fitness provides you mental alertness. For the physical fitness also you need some open space. In our anxiety for a clean city, we have paved all possible areas with cement and concrete. A tightly paved urban area is one of the reasons for runoffs during the floods. Pavement should be permeable so that water can seep in and fill our water tables. We should allow the trees to grow deep into our soil. This is good for us, the soil and the city. Migration problems are the new challenges. It should be remembered that merely expanding urban agglomerations without addressing the problems faced by the rural people will only increase urbanization. That's why late Abdul Kalam spoke of Pura, providing urban facilities in the rural area, rural people. We have to go to the root of the issue and see why people are migrating to our rural areas. They do so largely because of two compelling reasons. One, unemployment, and two, lack of access to basic communities they would get in urban areas. We have to address these issues in rural areas along with improving the urban livability in order to achieve a balanced and sustained growth. Few words about this book. I would like to commend the author, Dr. Samir Sharma, and the publishers for coming out with this book. I'm happy to note that the author has advocated homegrown solutions for cities based on our experience and indigenous knowledge on city planning rather than blindly aping the West. This is a good suggestion that city planners must take note of. May this book trigger many conversations, inspire more research in this field, and spark new innovations in urban planning. I hope it will find wider leadership and then provide for discussion among the planners, the people, and the citizens. I wish all the best for Dr. Samir Sharma and also publishers. Thank you very much. Namaskar. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Honorable Vice President, sir, for your words of wisdom. Your enlightening words will serve as guiding light for all of us here and all those who are in urban planning to pause, think, and plan our cities to make it more accessible, affordable, sustainable, and inclusive, and to maintain the cultural richness. Thank you for launching the textbook on urban planning and geography, authored by Dr. Samir Sharma, DGCO, IICA. May I now call upon Sri Ashok K. Ghosh, Chairman and Managing Director, PHI Learning Private Limited, to deliver a vote of thanks. Over to you, sir.
I consider it as an honor and privilege to say a few words of thanks on this occasion. We are fortunate to have Honorable Vice President of India, Mr. Venkaiah Naidu, to release our book, a textbook of urban planning and geography, authorized by Dr. Samir Sharma. As the President Emeritus of Federation of Indian Publishers, and an active Rotarian, sir, I have met you many times over the years. Last time I met you at your Delhi residence on the occasion of book release, Human Rights, Values and Cultural Ethos by Dr. R.P. Dhokaria. I am so happy to see you again. On behalf of PHI Learning, I express my heartiest thanks to you, sir, for sparing time from your busy schedule to grace this occasion. Your thought-provoking, excellent speech on this occasion is relevant to the urban development and matters related to urban planning, which is very contemporary subject in which our modern India is progressing. The text kindly released today is an excellent book, and students of architecture, planning, and geography will be benefited immensely by this. Thank you, Honorable Vice President Venkaiah Naidu ji. We are indeed very grateful for sparing your valuable time. PHI Learning is leading Indian academic publisher established in 1963 with the motto helping teachers to teach and students to learn. We are committed to publish low-cost, high-quality, affordable texts for the students across the globe. In 58 years of publishing, we have published more than 5,000 titles in various disciplines. All our books are written mostly by Indian authors. We are marketing our books globally so that students in India and abroad get benefited from the books published by us. We publish all our books in print format as well as in electronic format. All our books are available on online, Amazon, Kindle, our own website, Nook, Google Play, etc. And we encourage you, the participants, to browse our website, phindia.com, so that you know more about us and what kind of books we publish. My deepest sense of appreciation and hearty thanks to Dr. Samit Sharma, Director General and CEO of Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, for choosing us as his publisher. It is because of him book release event possible. I would also like to thank our distinguished speaker, Mr. Hitesh Vaidya, Director, National Institute of Urban Affairs, for introducing this book and sharing his opinion with us. I would also like to thank officers of the Vice President's Secretariat, National Informatics Center, NIC, and Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, IICA. I am grateful to all the participants for joining this event. Being a publisher, I always try to sell our publications. Therefore, I invite all the participants who wish to have e-book or print book, buy it directly from our website at an introductory discount of 30%. I thank you all for being with us and making this book launch a success. It has been a great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I'd like to once again thank our Honorable Vice President, Shri Venkaiah Naidu ji, for his valuable time. I would like to say that Honorable Vice President would like to take leave now, and with that, I would like to announce the event closed. Thank you all of you for joining. Thank you. Namaskar.